going to play an unbelievably well-coached team. Lions been there a lot of times. Oklahoma will be just like a really good SEC team that they will play. I'm sure they're probably like us. They've seen us play a little bit on TV, but we'll dive into it tonight and tomorrow, and to go back into the SEC footprint, I think is great. I hope we have a lot of Ole Miss Rebels in Columbia on Friday night.
There you go. Ole Miss in Oklahoma hooking up NCAA tournament. I had mentioned it's about, 10:30? That means one thing. RJ Young on a Thursday. We bring in RJ. RJ, I got your nickname. You are the content machine. I cannot get online. I can't get on Twitter. I can't get anywhere without seeing something you've written on OU Insider, something you've posted, small snips and videos. You do it quickly. And you are a machine. I can't even keep, all I got to do is say, what am I going to talk to RJ about? Pull up his Twitter, and it's like, all right, I can Levi Draper defense. I can talk this. I can talk OU basketball. Where do you want to go, brother?
I am Skynet. I am everywhere. I plan to take over all the things. Now, I wanted to touch, like, the clip. Listen to the clip. The clip was, I think Kermit said that they play like an SEC school, and I was like, man, what if that was true in football? Like, what would the defense look like? A little bit of shade, but I had to pick up on it. Look, I'm as excited as anybody else to start the tournament, but I just don't want the team to get embarrassed against Ole Miss, because what is Ole Miss basketball to you and me, right? I mean, if you get dunked on by Kentucky, it's one thing. You get dunked on by Ole Miss, that's not a good look. However, them getting this far was such a big deal. This was a gap year to get you to next year where you're supposed to be really good. And the fact that they could even make the tournament on basically strength of schedule, because they weren't good at all in conference play, I think is an achievement of itself.
I think I saw a stat, first 8 or 9 years, however long Lon's been there, he has gone to the NCAA tournament exactly the same amount of times as Kelvin Sampson. What Lon has done has been really, really good. You sum it up the greatest. I've referenced it many times. RJ says, hey, just don't embarrass us in basketball. Give us something to cheer for, something to have a lot of fun with in March Madness. If we can make a run, great. And I think that's probably the most poignant every single Sooner fan thinks. Like, we're all in on football. Don't embarrass us in basketball. And Lon Kruger has held up his end of the bargain.
Yeah, I mean, each and every year for the most part, I mean, he's got a down year, and then he comes back with an NCAA tournament appearance. And I think that's what you can ask for from the men's basketball coach at Oklahoma. I know that when he got hired, a lot of people were like, who? And then you dig into his pedigree. And I mean, you're talking about taking OU to the Final Four. You're talking about taking Florida to the Final Four. NBA experience. Dude goes all the way back to, like, I think 81, coaching Texas Pan Am. He just knows from his basketball, and this team always seems to be greater than the sum of its parts. I mean, we're talking about this game in such a way that if Christian James shows up and gets you like 16-7, you're walking over Ole Miss. You know, I mean, I marvel at what he's able to do from a basketball standpoint more than anything else. And I understand the backlash because people feel it's kind of stale, but they do forget Kelvin Sampson wasn't good in a couple of those years, right? And they do forget that ain't nobody really expect Oklahoma to do much. Matter of fact, here's a stat for you. Who is the team that has won the most games in the NCAA tournament without winning an NCAA tournament title?
Oklahoma.
Yeah. It's kind of a dubious honor, right?
Been to a final, been to a bunch of Final Fours. Yes, it is kind of dubious. Relevant, but have never reached the pinnacle. Real quick, talking to RJ Young, you can follow him on Twitter at RJ_Young. You can go on YouTube, just search RJ Young. His channel is blowing up every day. He's got great new content. Real quick, you referenced the Ole Miss basketball coach explaining, hey, this is an SEC style. And so what is the case for football? What does that look like if it is the case for football, if we're going to play a like-minded opponent in Oklahoma that's an SEC type opponent? Alex Grinch takes over as defensive coordinator. As far as what you, Brandon, some of the guys at OU Insider, what you're seeing, what you've heard, what's going on the defensive side of the ball this spring, kind of give us an update and give us a few names of guys who are really doing well.
Well, I mean, they're on spring break, right? So that's caveat. Nobody's practicing anything this week. But going into the weekend last week, Ronnie Perkins was loud about, hey, it's my time. I got to take it over. I want to be a household name in college football, which is a really big talk for an OU defense player because that hasn't been something they've been able to say, I want to say since like Gerald McCoy was the last time a national defensive player kind of rung out at Oklahoma. Now you have Buki and what he's been able to do in the recruiting world, but that needs to translate to football. Folks like Jalen Hurts, we all want to see what he looks like in Lincoln Riley's scheme, but from a leadership standpoint, you hear good things. But I'm more interested in the scheme, and I'm interested in how it's being deployed. Because if you check the roster numbers from last fall to the roster numbers this spring, nearly all the defensive tackles, not nearly all the defensive tackles have lost weight. In the case of like Jordan Kelley, it's like 3 pounds. In the case of like Neville Gallimore, he's gone from 330 to 295, and we're getting a prototype for what Alex Grinch wants his defensive tackles to look like, which is about 6'2", 6'3", 295. That's where all of those guys are around. So that's where he's getting his speed. But I'm really interested, and I'm doing a lot of research into a particular topic about what the defensive line will look like with Alex Grinch. And I'll throw one at you as a college football nerd like me. Do you remember Hercules Mataafa?
No.
Washington State, 6'2", 250-pound defensive tackle.
Yes.
Right. That was the dude that anchored that 2017 defense up front. He played a 6'2", 250-pound 3 technique, 1 technique. You know who fits that description? Ronnie Perkins.
Yep.
You know, and I'm not saying that that's what he's going to do, but if you're looking for Aaron Donald type of players, maybe the solution is just to go smaller, and by smaller we mean make your defensive end your 1 technique and see if you can't beat up on some people. And that seems like the kind of thing you could do.
Yeah, it is. Ed Oliver comes to mind. Ed Oliver's not a guy who's going to be a 300-plus pound guy. But watching him play in the conference at Houston, in the conference of Tulsa, every year, and OU fans, his first collegiate game ever. I mean, you guys had to deal with that cat, and so but guys like that, and I think guys like Alex Grinch likes to talk about and get his guys. You can play at 6'2". You can play at 260, sometimes rare, but 280, 290 pounds, because it's so much about leverage and quickness and making life hard on the guards and centers in the interior line. And no, I'm all in on that. I am all in on that. Of course, everybody would like to have a freaking Mount Cody. Everybody would like to have just a war daddy, 6'4", 320-pound, can't block me, and Dominican Sue. But at the same time, with what you've got, with what you can get your guys and sculpt them to be and fit your model, Alex Grinch, I like the move that they're going through there because you're putting speed, you're putting quickness, putting leverage in the front front 7, and that really obviously helps out and translates into what he wants to do, which is pursue, gang tackle, and get after it on defense. So I'm in on that.
Also allows you to do a lot more in the secondary in disguising who is the other guy in the box. And that was something else I picked up. I got this whole thing I'm working on about his defenses at Washington State and what they look like at Oklahoma. But I'm really excited to see what the front looks like, because you're going to see 3 guys with their hands on the ground, but you might see 7 guys come after the quarterback. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
With the talent, the one thing you can say, with OU and the recruiting on the defensive line position, when you look at the secondary, that really hasn't dropped off. They have recruited high-level guys for a long time, and so the talent is there. No question. The talent is there. I think the talent is there at the linebacker position. Everything, honestly, dude, everything's got a chance to come together. It really does. And if they buy into the Grinch's system, you see D Lyman. Here are telltale signs. D Lyman losing weight. Boom, there you go. Those guys are bought in and they're ready to go. They're taking on the challenge. They're losing weight. They're getting in better shape. You see guys flying around in the secondary and the back end. The defense will transform. And the same guys, the same names, the same numbers that you saw play last year, they're gonna be a whole different group, whole different guys. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen up close firsthand. 1 year can change the defense. It totally can with the new philosophy. And obviously that's what OU's trying to do.
Well, heck, I mean, we saw one game change the defense for a couple of games last season with Ruff McNeil. He made it simple. They played fast. They played well. Went away from it after TCU and Kansas State. So, I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. But again, we're not talking about can you win in the Big 12. We're talking about can you beat Alabama or Clemson in a college football playoff game. And the thing that I take from this is, yes, Quinnen Williams is a monster, and Ed Oliver is a monster, and we know all of that. But those guys are also really, really fast. Now, whether or not you can get that naturally, Quinnen Williams has it naturally, dropping 4'8" at 300-plus pounds. That man's fast. Or you can manufacture it by getting smaller and saying, you know, what beat up the Joe Moore Award offensive line last season in the Orange Bowl? It was quickness. It was speed. It was those guys could not get in front of Christian Miller and Quinnen Williams and Isaiah. Oh man, I'm forgetting his name. Another defensive end that just went after everybody. But if you can get that out of getting smaller, fine. I also think the chances of you getting blown off the ball are also pretty good too. But that's not what you see in the Big 12. You see that against Alabama and Clemson.
No doubt. RJ, we appreciate it, buddy. Enjoy the basketball. Hey, who do you got in this tournament? Who'd you pick?
Several brackets, but right now I got North Carolina and Duke, with North Carolina stomping Duke.
Fourth time they would play this year. The two teams have never played in the NCAA tournament. Crazy stats. We look forward to it, buddy. Have a great weekend, man, and keep up the content.
All right, appreciate it, brother.
Got it. RJ Young,